some time with Peter's immediate family, sharing some of their thoughts and fond memories. I think we've got a short video to share after that, and then I'll be back to do a slideshow on some of the different parts of Peter's life that you may or may not know much about, how Peter came to be who and where he was. I think you'll find it interesting and comforting, probably inspiring. After that, we're going to go to an open mic session, as I said, where people can sign up to share a short memory. So at this point, with the immediate family sharing some memories, we're going to go first to Komang, if she would like to do that. I will stop sharing my screen now.
We would like to say thank you so much for everyone to support us at these difficult times. We heard everyone. I didn't think so. I can stop right now in front of your computer. And I like to tell you about Peter, my husband. Peter is a really great man. He's really great daddy. He's amazing person and always beside us. He always beside us for everything. He will do everything for us, everything. He's just great person and great husband. I don't think this mommy wants to say, maybe you want to say something?
Yeah, I guess I'll say something. My mom always says, the last few weeks, she's always been saying how she wishes my dad would have yelled at her at some point, but he never did. He always just loved us all with so much kindness. But there's always one thing that I remembered was whenever, like around the house, my dad would never swear. He'd never swear, like yell or anything. But whenever we'd go to competitions and it was just me and him, sometimes I'd hear him swear and it was just like, I don't know, one of those things where I was like, oh, my dad swears. But yeah, I don't know, just memories.
Toby wants to say something? No? For your dad?
Okay, if that's everyone from the Hillis family, we would like perhaps to go to Don and Jean if they wanted to say something. Jean, I think you're muted there.
There. Okay. Yeah, our hearts have been shattered by this cruel twist of fate that's taken Peter from us. And we shed tears and when we think of Peter at each stage of his life, from a very little boy to a loving husband and father with his own family. We recall the mischievous toddler who dipped his arms into a gallon of paint while wearing his brand new snowsuit, and who rubbed a can of sticky waterproof diaper rash ointment into his hair, and who sloshed encyclopedia volumes with red covers into the toilet. The Hillis kids who could walk up the door frames in our century home with 11-foot ceilings to hide from their babysitters. The 6-year-old boy who did not want skis for Christmas the year his sister Jennifer asked for them, and then came to love the sport that would shape his life. Heading west at 17, he led a life of adventure, working in the oil patch in Alberta, farming on Vancouver Island, smoke jumping in the Yukon, rock climbing in South America, and skiing Red Mountain. Traveling to Indonesia in the 90s, he found his paradise and returned as often as he could. Visits to Ontario were infrequent. Peter could not imagine why anyone would want to live in Ontario when there were places like Bali and Rossland and the beauty of the mountains. When he did come home, he always came prepared to tackle a list of jobs and repairs that needed to be done, including building us a wonderful garden shed in 2000. In early 2001, Peter, now 42, headed to Bali with the intention of living and working there for a period of time. Soon after, he surprised us with an email saying they might be getting married. And in September of that year, with 3 weeks' notice, Dad and I flew to Bali to attend their traditional Balinese wedding and welcome Kamong into our family. The next year, Simon was born into this new little family, and Peter was now a proud and attentive dad. In 2005, the family moved back to Peter's little miner's cottage in Rossland, and he began transforming it into a home large enough to accommodate all his extended family that came to visit. With the arrival of Toby in 2007, their family was complete. Both boys were introduced to skiing as toddlers and showed natural skills from the start. Peter encouraged and supported them as they developed into first-class medal-winning competitors. Simon and Toby were his pride and joy, and Kamong was the love of his life. How unfair it is that their lives have been torn apart by this tragedy. We are so grateful for the outpouring of love and support for the family by friends far and wide, and especially the community of Rossland. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Over the years, we've had many tearful goodbyes, but this goodbye is forever. And while we are heartbroken, we are also so thankful for the love and joy Peter brought into our lives. Know how much you are loved, Peter, and how much we will miss you. Mom, Dad, Jennifer, Aunt Mamie, and Aunt Barb.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jean. That's really, really quite nice. Now is everyone in the Hillis family, Ontario, finished speaking, or would someone else like to speak?
No,
I think
that's it.
Okay. Well, thanks, you guys. Our hearts are with you. I believe Thomas wanted to speak. So we'll get the Hillises in Ontario to mute their mic, and then Thomas, if you were going to say something.
I
Do we have Thomas anywhere there? Holly, do you see? Oh, perhaps not.
Wait.
Oh,
Sorry.
there- Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we've got you, Thomas. Go ahead.
All right. I just want to share that little story that I wrote to you yesterday in an email. I think it was one of the very first times when Peter came to Bali and with his friend Harley and I think Gordon also. And we went on a tour around Bali, and Yeye, my wife, came along. Along the way, we stopped in the village where the girls come from in the north. And I believe that would have been the first time Peter ever laid eyes on Komang, who was, I think, still in school. And then later on, when the holidays were over and they were getting ready to fly back home, he gave Yeye an envelope to pass on to Komang. And surely enough, she forgot to pass that on. And about 4 years later or so, it turned up while she was cleaning up somewhere. And so belatedly, she gave it to her sister. And it turned out what was in it was a $100 bill and a note saying for Komang to buy a dictionary so she can improve her English. And then she wrote a letter to Peter, and by that, and at that time I was back in Canada, of course, to thank him for that. And I sent a photo of that letter with my email yesterday. Okay, there's no words to. We'll miss him forever. Thank you all.
Well said, Thomas. Our hearts are with you so far away on the other side of the world, and we know you'd be here if you could be. We miss you. So I think that was everyone from the immediate family that had scheduled to say a few words. Is that the case? Do you see anybody in the chat box there, Holly, that is saying anything, or is that going to be later? We'll get the open mic going. Okay.
Yeah, we'll have the open mic later.
Okay. So we are going to now, there's a video that we're just going to, a couple of short video clips that Simon and Toby have put together. So we'll get that up and running, and then I'll come back with a Life and Times slideshow.
Okay, Lucas, come on,
I don't know how we.
come on. What do you think's gonna happen?
My house finished.
Okay, Lucas,
Remote control.
Peter.
Well, I'm hoping to get the first half of my home renovation. First half.
Yeah.
And
In his ski boots. Simon's pretty happy because he got new ski boots. You ready to go skiing, Simon? We send this one to Rudolph, and he'll see we have Orangila living with us.
Right. Mommy, Daddy already not working.
You like mommy's better than mine?
Simon.
Turn it off, Simon.
He's hiding, honey, the boat.
Get it, Simon.
Okay.
Okay, thanks for that, Simon and Toby. Pretty great stuff. And thanks to all of you for sharing your love and memories. I'm going to deliver a slideshow on some different parts of Peter's life and times right now. Okay, Peter and the Hillis family. This picture of the Hillis family is taken at Clementine's Restaurant, a notorious Rossland establishment of yesteryear. Proprietorship by Andy Talbot and Kelvin Saldern. You went there for the food and the camaraderie. It sure wasn't the decor. Looking closely, we can see almost everyone enjoying steaks. Not Peter for sure, happily popping a chunk of cauliflower into his mouth. More on Peter the vegetarian to follow. But this is a great picture to start a bit of a conversation about Peter the family man and how that came to be. Peter's mom and dad obviously raised Peter with much dedication, love, and caring. That is and has been very apparent to all of us as Peter's extended family in Rossland. We've watched as Peter fell in love with Komang and with her raised two beautiful boys in our town. And always Peter's dedication, love, and caring for his family were so evident. This is what Peter lived for. You knew it really fulfilled him and gave him much joy. Peter's parents, Don and Jean, are no doubt proud of their son, the loving family man. And Jennifer, you should be proud too. Having a sister is always good for a guy and not a small advantage when it comes to learning how to get along with that significant female that eventually captures a fellow's heart. Peter's Rossland family all hopes very much that Peter's parents take a lot of comfort from Peter's wonderful capacity for love and nurturing as husband and father, and know that we know that didn't just come from the mountain air. Don and Jean, thank you on behalf of all of us for giving us the Peter that we will never forget. Peter's Ingersoll childhood. Peter, like many of his Rossland friends, wasn't born in Rossland. He came from elsewhere, drawn here by a love of skiing and adventure. More than a couple of Rossland ski bums came from Peter's hometown, Ingersoll, Ontario. One of them is Andy Talbot, who provided this news photo from his father's scrapbook. Andy says, One of the things that has bound me to Peter since our public school days is skiing. Our high school, Ingersoll Collegiate, was the WASA, Western Ontario Secondary School Association ski champs in 1974. Peter was an athlete and a star on that team. I was a ski bum. This is a classic photo. We see Peter and his sister Jennifer, and that's Andy Talbot in the back there with his father's inked arrow pointing him out. Scott McClogan, Peter's lifelong friend and childhood next door neighbor, is on the team too. Jennifer remembers, Peter and I were members of two ski teams, our high school team and the Ski High Club team. That's SKEEHI, in case there was any questions. In the winter, we spent most of our after school and weekend hours skiing, training, developing skills on the small, I'll say 150-foot vertical Ingersoll ski hill. As kids, we were also members of a competitive diving team, springboard diving. At least one summer, we rode our 10-speed bikes daily from Ingersoll to Tatham's Pond in Woodstock, where we trained alongside the Canadian diving team. Our dad was an official at the 1976 Montreal Olympics diving venue. Andy Talbot remembers, Peter was also a competitive diver, which made him fearless in later life. I remember him doing toe drops off the 10-meter tower at Tatham's backyard pond during the 1975 Canadian Championships. No fear of heights, comfortable in the air. That was Peter. In the 70s, Ingersoll Collegiate competed against Alma, Michigan in the Can-Am Games. We alternated years for the games locations. In 1975, we were on the water polo team. As I remember, we went for the party and the competition was secondary. So as the American team stretched and warmed up poolside, Peter led our team in goofing off on the diving boards with inwards, flips, and gainers, much to the delight of our friends in the bleachers. Again, Peter was the star and the fearless athlete. I was along for the ride. And before we leave this photo, we should go over a funny dog walking memory provided by Scott McClogan, Peter's childhood inseparable best friend, cousin, next door neighbor. Okay, so Peter and Scott would buy a few donuts during the dog walk and of course, share them with the dogs, as one does. Scott remembers, we were standing on the corner munching our donuts and discussing our super cool polyester bell-bottom pants, see photo, which apparently grade 8 girls were totally hot for. For us in the late 60s, bell bottoms, polyester, and dangerously pointy collars were the pinnacle of coolness. There was a fire hydrant on the corner and Peter's dog Spooky would usually avail himself of it. But this time, perhaps in a donut sugar haze, Spooky lifted his leg and blasted both of our brand new polyester bell bottoms with dog pee. It must have been a sight, both of us dancing around, tangled in dog leashes, trying to avoid Spooky's venomous blast. We settled down and weren't too hard on Spooky, but we did wonder if the girls might notice. Memories of Peter by his sister Jennifer. Peter turned 17 in December and left home in January of 77. I was completing my last year of high school. In the summer of 77, Mom, Dad, and I took a road trip to see Peter in the West. He joined us for part of that trip. He also joined us in 1985 when we did a trip down the Inside Passage on the Alaska Ferry. I was teaching in the Arctic and surprised Peter in Dawson City, Yukon, when he was a smoke jumper there, and I was attending the Dawson City Music Festival. It was exciting when Peter expanded his family to include Komung, Simon, and Toby. During their trips to Ingersoll, the time flew by as we built memories participating in various activities. Thanks for those memories, Peter. Love, Jennifer. So as Jennifer said, Peter left Ontario in 1977, stopped in Calgary, where Peter, ever the audiophile and music lover, started work in a stereo shop. Other friends came west. Andy remembers Team Ingersoll, Peter, Andy Talbot, and Tom Bones Lewis working on a Northern Alberta geoseismic team together. Tom Bones was in charge. Peter was the transmitter guy. Andy was the jug guy, traipsing over the boreal tundra. Looks like it was good for young Peter from these pictures. He's developed into quite the strapping young man. And we look at these pictures and I think, you'll all agree that Peter didn't look much different 40 years later. He took care of himself and he stayed fit. It's interesting to watch Simon and Toby growing into very similar physiques. Moving on, Andy and another bunch of Peter's friends were living in Banff, and for some reason, I'm sure it was to escape the Rocky Mountain weather, a trip to Vancouver Island ensued. These pics are from Twig, Deborah Benjamin, an old friend of Peter's. Twig says, "This is Peter and Andy Talbot walking from Tofino to Yaklulit on the beach, an 8-hour trip at low tide. Beautiful day." Talking to Andy, he remembers they had to move fast to get out of an area before the incoming tide trapped them against the shore. Peter must have liked Vancouver Island. He rented a farmhouse near Horn Lake at Qualicum, Parksville, and he helped on the farm with haying and goats. Farmhouse living gave way to Peter's first build, shown here in 1981, decidedly off-grid back when it was just getting to be a thing. Pretty impressive build for 21 years old. Back to this photo, we can't leave Vancouver Island without talking about the picture on the right. Andy Talbot says, "This is Peter with his vegetarian dog. As I remember, he fed it only high-end dog food with no meat. And this was the same dog that later attacked a farmer's cow, or maybe it was a horse, and latched onto it with carnivorous intent." Here's another Horn Lake picture. Andy Talbot says, "This is Donnie Dale, also from Ingersoll, Peter's friend Haggie, and of course, Peter. Nice 1969 Dodge window van." As Andy Talbot remembers, we drove this van from Nanaimo to Victoria, all on back roads. Backroad driving in old unreliable vehicles was never a worry when you had Peter the mechanical genius with you. Andy remembers driving out to Vancouver Island in a '73 Ford Comet that he won in a card game. Andy limped it into Peter's driveway. The car was about ready for the ditch, but while Andy played guitar, Peter patched up leaking vacuum hoses and tightened loose struts and had the car back to good as new. But eventually, Peter heard of Rossland and arrived in the Mountain Kingdom. Jeff Hunt, also from Ingersoll and living here now, is a longtime friend of Peter's, 59 years, but who's counting? Jeff provided these pictures and gives us some background of how Peter came to Rossland. As Jeff tells it, a few of us arrived in Rossland around 1978. We stopped in Rossland because this is where the car broke down. In 1982, Peter and I rented a house in Warfield and ski bummed in Rossland for the next 3 years. All the furniture in the house was built with waste wood. We were the Swirl Dogs, and we're all from Ingersoll, Ontario, and we threw many legendary costume and theme parties. My favorite memories of skiing with Peter was skiing the Microwave Tower on Granite, the Northwest Cooler on Old Glory, and 2 weeks in Kokanee Glacier. Goodbye, old buddy. You will be missed. Now, Jeff mentioned the costume theme parties. I don't know if Peter's in any of these pics. And in fact, I don't know if anyone in these pics would even recognize themselves. But suffice to say that those Ingersoll Swirl Dogs knew a thing or two about amusing themselves between ski days. But back to the skiing. Well, Jeff says he stopped in Rossland because that was where the car broke down. I'm thinking Peter came here in pursuit of powder snow, and Rossland didn't disappoint. These pics kind of say it all. The daily dose of Kootenai powder being worked by Peter's son, Simon, age 9. Here's a little video that I think you'll enjoy. This is Peter cruising the steep and deep in the cliffs of, well, I probably should. I know Peter wouldn't want me to share the location of our secret powder stash, but I want you to listen to Peter as he expresses genuine concern about hitting rocks as he skis this cliffy line on a pair of brand new skis he has just borrowed for a run or two from his good friend Ron Cooley. Not sure if Ron ever knew this story, but he does now. So let's watch this.
Harry Hillis shredding the cliff. Now captured on video for the new web-based extreme skiing stunt action, PooTube. The rock right there. Rocks are nothing. Think lightly. Use your ski yoga. It's all in video, Hillis. I don't know what I can do here, Donnie, but I'm gonna. It looks good. It looks good below you. Nice. Here he comes. Oh, major snow pillow. He's gonna kill me. He said, I won't tell him. I won't tell him. Don't tell him. You don't tell him he deserves missing from his news.
So that's great.
Harry Hillis shredding the cloth.
Go to the next one here.
Harry.
There we go. So great video. Glad to have that one to look back on. The skiing is epic here, and Peter knew it, whether skiing with his buddies or teaching Komang to ski, mentoring his boys, Simon and Toby, in the early days on skis, and then trying to keep up with them in more recent years. Peter loved to ski. That lifelong passion sparked on that tiny Ingersoll ski hill, burned in Peter for his entire life. And in Rossland, he found the perfect place to indulge that passion. You know, we have memories of Peter, the skiing mentor, Peter, the ski photographer, Team Triple H, Hillis, Helly, Hansen, when Peter landed a corporate sponsor, but that'd be for the boys, not Peter. But skiing was just one thing that Peter and Komang supported their boys in. We have so many pictures, great memories of Peter and the boys spending time together, building skills and etching memories that will last Komang and the boys a lifetime. Peter and music. A big passion for Peter was music and listening, really listening to it. Peter was attending music festivals from the very start. The picture on the left from Paul Hirschfield, who says, this is from the Bumbershoot Music and Arts Festival in Seattle around 1995. Peter always loved sharing his love of music and was always so inclusive. The picture on the right is from Laura Mackay. This is Peter dancing at our wedding, outdoor April in the Rockies. Peter brought speakers. If not for him, there'd have been no dancing in the dust at the Jasper Airport. Peter wired them up to his car somehow, and the tunes ran until the wee hours when the battery gave out and we had to boost his car. Peter, Yukon smoke jumper. In 1986 or so, Peter joined a number of his Rossland friends, taking a job with the Yukon smoke jumpers based in Whitehorse. Smoke jumpers are trained to parachute into forest fires and put them out. Here's the 86 crew, 20 jumpers in their DC-3 airplane, 2 pilots, 2 cooks, and there's Peter. You can see the pink stripe on his helmet. Here's Peter at spring training in Whitehorse, looking good in his Yukon fire management coveralls. You may notice his sporty pink cap. I think was a bit of a theme with Peter. So what the heck is smoke jumping? Well, Peter would want you to know about this particular portion of his vocational resume. That's because Peter really loved this job. Kevin Marr remembers the time similar to this picture on the left, when they were all sitting suited up on the floor of the DC-3, flying over a fire they were about to parachute into. The door of the old DC-3 airplane was removed. It was loud and smoky inside, but Peter was grinning wildly. He leaned over and yelled into Kevin's ear, "This is the best damn job ever." Now, Peter may have used a slightly stronger word than damn, but hey, this is a family show. So at Peter's bidding, we'll give you a nickel tour of the job Peter loves so much. The men and equipment load into that DC-3 airplane and are dispatched to fires as they start, usually by lightning, across the Yukon. The men parachute out 2 at a time. You can see here on the right, a typical jump fire in the hills above the Yukon River, with the jumpers descending to land and start work on the fire. The picture on the left is from Paul Hirschfield, who says, here's Peter coming in hot under an XL30. If you look closely enough, there's a pink stripe on his helmet. The picture on the right isn't Peter, but one of Peter's jumper buddies, Ron Romley, leaving no doubt in anyone's mind that, as Peter said, this is the best damn job ever. Of course, it's not all airplanes and parachutes. Once on the ground, the jumpers have to work hard to put the fires out, but always time for a little fun. Peter's seen here rebelling against a recent safety memo admonishing the smoke jumpers for not using personal protective equipment consistently and as required. This was before social media, and a good thing too. If this photo had ever made it back to Yukon Fire Management, we would have been in big trouble. So of course, with the fire out, the jumpers cut a helicopter landing area and load everything into helicopters to fly back and get ready to do it again. This picture of Peter, notice the pink belt, getting ready to board a 212 helicopter to head back to Mayo, North Yukon. But this picture is really about vegetarian grit and resolve, not to mention potential vegetarian starvation in towns like Mayo. As Mark Fletcher tells it, we were short of food, so we sent the helicopter back to pick up some meals at the Chateau Mayo, the only restaurant in town. Of course, they forgot Peter was a vegetarian and sent burgers. Peter was not pleased at the oversight. But that's not all. Kevin Marr on the right-hand side of this picture adds some more details on vegetarian heartbreak. We got back to town and we're having dinner at the restaurant in Mayo, and Peter mentioned to the waitress that he was a vegetarian. I don't think the waitress had ever heard of a vegetarian. While the rest of us had steak and baked potatoes, I think they were baked the week before, Pete had to settle for several shriveled up baked potatoes. Peter the Builder. This picture of a foundation pour that Peter was on back in the early 90s. That's him in the tank top, third from the left. The part of Peter's life that really deserves some attention is Peter the Builder, the amateur mechanical engineer and designer. Cars, structures, airplanes, didn't matter. Peter was comfortable with them all. Peter was very close to starting a major home-built airplane project. This was going to be quite the plane, using the latest in composite technology, but the project got sidelined somehow, another story you can learn about on your own time. Peter got 85% in high school physics, and his aptitude for things mechanical was outstanding and apparent to Peter's many friends that engaged him on their projects or that benefited from Peter showing up to a foundation pour or a truss installation. Peter was very generous with his friendship, and it was in the builder category where Peter's help and expertise was really a great thing to have on site. Here's a more recent foundation pour at Terry and Almeida's. Come a long way from that early 90s pour. Peter was all about using cutting edge building technology, and this ICS concrete form job, despite being besought with engineering challenges, came in on time and on budget. Right, Terry?
Yeah, that'd be no.
Okay, well, we could go on and we will go on. Peter's adventures and experiences are legendary. And as we keep saying, someone should write a book. But you know, for Peter, the best fun was doing stuff like this. Peter here on the trampoline with his son, Toby and Kamung. Just before this picture was taken, Peter was bounding and throwing flips and gainers, showing the kids some moves. But for Peter, the real fun was hanging out with friends and family. We'll miss Peter, but we'll carry on, all of us better off and very thankful for the life and times we were blessed to share in Peter's company. I hope you've all enjoyed this wide-ranging coverage of just some of the many parts of Peter's life. And thanks to all who shared photos and stories for us to put into this slideshow. We're going to continue now with an open mic session. We'll turn it over to Holly and Simon, and they'll be inviting the people that have signed up in the chat box to say a few words. We don't know how many people we're going to have wanting to talk, so we're asking everyone to keep their remarks fairly short. We're shooting for less than 90 minutes on this. So if you can keep it short, more people can get a chance to speak. You can always sign up twice if we have enough time. So I'll stop sharing my screen now and turn it over to Holly.
Turn on your audio. Can everybody hear me? Well, good. So we'll just start, obviously not with Terry, he doesn't want to go first, but if someone will put their name in the chat, if anybody has a story to tell about Peter or his life or an experience that you guys had. We'll start with Nikki Karn.
Hi, everyone. We got to see Peter the Builder and Peter the Skier and Peter the Father, but the Karns here, we are Peter's neighbor. So I just wanted to share a quick story about Peter the neighbor. This was a few years ago. We woke up in the middle of the night to water coming through the ceiling and dripping onto my father's bed. So not a pleasant way to wake up in the middle of the night in the winter. So my dad and I were out there, we grabbed shovels and set up a ladder, climbed up on top of the roof and just started hacking away at ice with these metal shovels, making a heck of a racket for midnight in the dead of winter. Now, I don't know about most of you, but if I woke up to my neighbors clanging on their roof in the middle of the night, I might have some choice words to yell out the window at them, but that's not Peter. Peter, of course, came out in a heartbeat and was offering help to us, saying, what can I do? What can I come over with? I'll be right up there. And, wouldn't really take no for an answer. So just such a friendly and kind and loving person. And we're so thankful to have had the chance to live next door to him. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. Next, we have Kevin Marr. If you want to unmute yourself and tell your word.
Hi, you guys. There's so much to say about Peter. I mean, like the rest of you, we're shocked, shocked and dismayed, and so sad. Mort, you did an amazing job. I can't believe you didn't cry. Yeah, the gang from Ingersoll, some of you might not know, but they were known as the Ingersoll Swirl Dogs, and they were pretty amazing partiers. I probably got to know Peter the best when we went to the Yukon Territory and worked together, and yeah, he said it was the best fucking job ever, Mort. Get it right. One of the greatest stories I have about Peter is him and I were rookies together along with almost half of our crew, and there was a tradition that the rookies had to put on a rookie night and buy all the veterans drinks. Well, Peter came to me and says, Kev, we can't let these guys get away with this easily. We got to make them all puke. We're not only going to feed them liquor, we're going to make them meals. We're going to make them so many rich dishes and then we'll feed them so much booze that they're all going to puke. And Don's second is better is Janice, and mine is Yiget, and they were our cooks that year, and they jumped in and helped us out and made grasshopper pie and very, very rich meals, and we went to the Copper Kettle, I believe it was, and we prepaid our tip, and we served upside down shooters, which meant that you lay on a table and they poured them into your mouth, and most of them involved green chartreuse. And by golly, we made most of us puke. And that was just, that's just one story. I mean, I could go on forever, but I can't believe you're gone, Peter. It's so sad. Goodbye.
I believe Terry had a story next. Wants to tell.
Hey, Holly, thanks. Good job, Kev. Yeah, miss Peter terribly. He was my firewood buddy. He was my builder. I wouldn't let anybody else build our little house next door here. It had to be Peter, and I worked really hard to get Peter a job because this last year, my sister's doing a big reno, and I said, no, Peter, I want you to get a steady paycheck just for a couple of weeks here. You got to work on my sister's house. Anyway, but the story that I wanted to share about Peter, I think is just a perfect picture of who he was. It was 1988. I was working on the ski patrol. We had the Women's World Cup downhill had come to town, and Rawson put on a huge show, and all the top female skiers in the world descended on Rossland, and it was a beautiful March or April. I think it must have been March because it was a spring day and the conditions were perfect and the sun was out. And I remember I was patrolling, and I remember being on one of the early chairs we'd done our patrol, opened the mountain, and all the women in their Lycra suits and their amazing, it was quite a sight, let me put it that way. And we were coming up the old granite tower, the old lattice towers on Granite Chair. And I think it was around tower 13 or 14, Kevin. And I look up ahead, and there's somebody who's climbed up the tower, and Peter was wearing his tuxedo, his tux and tails, and his little bowler, and he'd climbed up the tower on Tower 14, and he was hanging off like Charlie Chaplin. And as the World Cup skiing, the women went by, he would pull out a long stem single red rose and hand it to them as they went by. And it was, and so this was Peter's greeting to all those women who came to ski there. So I think that's just that just sums up Peter perfectly.
All right, that's a good one. Chris Ryman has a story, something to share.
Hi, and first of all, deepest condolences to everyone, Peter's family. I really have this profound memory of Peter. You know, the first couple of years I met him, I was just really impressed by how great of a father he was, you know, and I was a young father at the time, but I really got this sense of, you know, the most important thing a father can do is make a wonderful future for his kids, you know, and I really saw that sense in Peter. Everything was about his family. He would sacrifice anything for his wonderful wife and his two awesome kids. And I really saw Peter as a mentor, as a father. And just a more lighthearted story. He, you know, we were taking Radisson to the ski hill at Red Mountain for one of the first times, and we had gotten together some gear. It was pretty sketchy stuff, not the right size. And he sees us, you know, pretty early in the day, and he's like all excited. Radisson's learning to ski, but he kind of, you know, you can see him scan up and down and look at her gear and be like, "I'll be back in 15 minutes." And he got in his truck and he drove home, and he managed to pull out some old gear from Simon and Toby and hook Radisson up, along with a brand new pink helmet from one of his amazing son's awesome sponsorship deals. And I think that really, you know, changed the course for Radisson's future with skiing. She was so excited about the sport, and this brand new pink helmet she still wears to this day, albeit a lot less padding. But yeah, the Rymans here are really going to miss Peter, and he was a common visitor at our business, Endless Adventure, and I just love you guys so much, and we're here for you.
Thank you for that, Chris. We have next up Howie Karn, and then we'll go into Leslie Beatson.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, I was just, I had the fortunate luck of having Peter as a neighbor, and he had every tool that you could ever need for doing any kind of construction. And he was always there to help, but it kind of put me in an uneasy situation, because whenever I go over there and ask him to borrow a tool, he'd want to know what it was for. And I was kind of uneasy in telling him, because I knew how much of a perfectionist he was. And I would always be doing something wrong. And Peter would be saying, "No, you can't do it that way." But he was a great guy, a great friend, and we're going to really, really miss him a lot.
And I just want to add to that, to say that being such close neighbors all these years, meeting Peter, well, probably 30 years or so ago, and then he was gone for a while and back and forth, and then he came home and brought Kumong and Simon home with him, and we just saw Peter go from a bit of a wild skiing guy, yeah, to this incredible family man who loved Kumong so much, and his two boys, Toby and Simon, and just couldn't ask for a better neighbor and a better family to live next door to. We love them all so much. We're going to miss Peter. And we just want you to know how much you're in our hearts. And also to you, Jean and Dawn and Jennifer. I know how, well, I don't know. I can only imagine how difficult this is for you. And we want you to know that we think about you all the time too. And God bless all of you.
I believe Leslie Beatson is on the list next.
Thanks, Holly. Kumang, you're really brave, and the boys too, and Jean and Dawn and Jennifer. Jean, thank you for speaking, and to you too. I just want to say how brave Peter was. You know, Peter, I first knew Peter in the party years at Kokanee with a gang of swirl dogs and Red Mountain and skiing and so on. But I knew him for many years, and he was building my house, and unfortunately he had a horrendous accident. And I got to tell you how brave he was throughout that. So there was about 3 days before he could have surgery, and he was not complaining. He was smiling going into surgery, and the love and devotion I saw for Kumang then, you know, in Kelowna, he didn't want to tell her. He didn't want to tell you, remember, because you were in Bali, and he didn't want to worry you. And right before the surgery, I felt this pull to say, I think you should call and tell her. And just the whole, you know, how upset he was that you were upset, and just that trying to protect you. Yeah, I just wanted to share how obvious his love was and devotion, and how brave he showed up through all of that. Thanks.
Thanks, Leslie. I have Jill Spearin on the list next.
Okay. Love you guys. So I just wanted to tell a little story. I've known Peter for a long time too, as I think Toby and Kumang and Simon realize how many friends your dad had and will always have. So I have two big connections. One is Simon was in my grade 4 class. Heaven forbid, he probably wants to forget. And Simon was really getting into his skiing seriously during that year and then the years beyond. And I remember Peter coming down the hallway one day to my classroom, and I hadn't seen Peter at school that often because he didn't have any reasons to be there. Simon was a great student, and he came into my classroom, and you know, he looked a little bit humble, but very respectful. And, you know, we were all friends, and here we are in this, you know, silly classroom and all this formality around us. And he said, you know, Jill, I've just come to talk to you about Simon. And I'm wondering if he can take Fridays off throughout the winter to go skiing. And I know Peter was a bit nervous, and I was a bit nervous. And I said, well, as long as he does his math, hell yeah, get out there and go skiing. So being a skier and loving skiing in the mountains myself, that was a really nice interaction with your dad, you two. And I'll always cherish it. And after that, you know, whenever there was something going on at school, Peter would come and he would just saunter in, and he was way more comfortable. And, you know, he'd pick up Simon's homework, or we'd have a chat or whatever. So I just wanted you guys to know that your dad was very respectful in the school system as well. And the other more recent story, and Toby, I've been in your class of late, again, maybe heaven forbid, subbing a bit and seeing you there, honey. So I didn't get to personally give you my condolences because you were at school the day I dropped by, but I'm so sorry for you all. And the other one is Simon, as you all hopefully know, Chris Ryman mentioned about his kayaking, and I've taken up kayaking the last few years, and Simon saw me many times terrified on the river in my first year or so. And if it wasn't for Simon and some of those young lads out there, Thomas Knight and kids that I actually taught. And so here I was the student, and you guys were the teachers. And to me, that's just so, so special. And I know your dad would be so proud of you. And I'm proud of you guys too. And I really, all my condolences to your family and to your grandparents. And I just wanted to share a little bit of that. And thanks, Mort, for pulling this all together. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Love you.
Thank you, Jill. I can tell you Simon still doesn't want to do his homework, or especially his math homework. I have Heather Heisman on the list next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Heather Heisman, just dialing in from Calgary, Alberta, and our whole family, my husband Dave, and our kids, Matthew, Sloan, and John, Coleman, Toby, and Simon, we're heartbroken, and we're just so sorry that we couldn't be there to give you all hugs, and also sending lots of love and condolences from your crew in Golden, BC, who are all thinking a lot about you and remembering your dad. And I could tell you a couple of stories, one in particular about an Alberta girl who loves to eat steak, and Peter, the vegetarian. But suffice to say that we met in the middle with agreeing that farmed salmon was just not the way to go ever. So we did agree on that. But I think one of my most favorite memories of your dad was the last time we were at the Red Mountain competition, and he snuck me on the chair. Sorry, I think I saw, Don Thompson, if you're on this call, sorry. But Peter snuck me on the early load, and I remember getting up to the top, and it was the most beautiful, like West Kootenay sunrise I just ever seen. And your dad looked at me, and I was like, okay, what do we do now? And do we just go down to the bottom of the venue and hang out? And he's like, well, that's what we should do, but we're going to do something else. I was like, what? And he said, just follow me. And we went, and we had the most glorious run. And I'm sorry, I don't know, which one it was, but it was like the best snow. It was just the two of us, and it was fantastic. And what really struck me about it is that, I'm a new friend to Peter. Like, I think he's been in our life for about 10 years or so, but it's very rare to meet someone who you connect with at our age, at that late stage in your life, to really feel the heart and soul of someone. And he was so transparent, and he was joyful in the moment all the time. And that run down the mountain was just like pure joy. And I think that's what I remember, most about Peter. And he was a builder. And there are lots of things that I look around my home, and things that he helped me with, and things that he fixed. And, he built a lot for so many people. And anyway, just loved him so much, and love you guys. And we're sending all our love. Thanks.
Thank you, Heather. We'll move on to Mark NP.
Hi there. Am I on?
Yep.
Yeah. Great. Well, I've known Peter for a very long time. Well, I guess since about 2005. But I guess the first thing I can say about Peter is how that strikes me is how he always looked out for Kamang. Who was always thinking of things that are in her best interest, and talking about her car and tires and that sort of thing. And I just remember that as being just a great example of a terrific man. Peter was just the other thing I'd like to say is such a strong advocate for Toby and Simon. Always had their best interests in mind, and what an advocate. with Peter, he was an engaged person, and the conversations I had with Peter, they were always he was always engaged, and it was always a deeper one. We didn't, and I think I'm not special. If you asked how you're doing, he really wanted to know, and always drew me in, and I think was the same with other people. And other than if I ran into Peter borrowing something from him, or just in town, we would start chatting, and I found we could just chat, we could just keep going. It was never small talk, and quite often we had very long conversations that just weren't planned. They're on the side of the road or on the sidewalk, and it wasn't about the boys. We would just talk about anything. Just such a great person, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark. I believe Cal wanted to say something next.
Hey, hello, everybody. And come on, Toby, Simon, all the rest of Peter's family. Much love to you all. I have a story about Peter. Peter, as a young man, was actually quite a patient man. I think it was the winter of '82, and I was working in a small ski shop up at Red Mountain called High Country Sports. It was a big powder morning, and Peter came storming in at about, I don't know, it was probably 8 o'clock, well before the chairlift opened. And he had a brand new pair of silver atomic carbon skis. And he really wanted to use them on that powder day. So we were all in a big hurry. He wanted to get out there and get at it. So I threw the skis up on the bench, grabbed the jig, drilled the first ski, mounted the binding, pulled it off, grabbed the ski, the next ski, threw it on, drilled it, and went, uh-oh, and I put it on backwards. So Peter's powder day was kind of blown out, and he was totally patient about it. He was totally cool. I think he just rallied, went and got his old boards, and off he went. And we did end up buying him a new pair of skis to replace those. They were terrible skis, by the way. But Peter was, I skied with Peter a lot back in those days, and he was a way better skier than me. He was a fabulous athlete. And he's passed that on to both his boys. I know Simon started paddling, when you're 13, 14 years old or something. I think Simon had paddled for a year, and after 1 year, he was already paddling better than I do. And we'll continue on. And the last thing I would say is a little bit about Peter, the helper, the builder, the neighbor. We were doing a renovation a couple of years ago. I was looking for some scaffolding. I rang Peter up and said, "Hey, Pete, you got any scaffolding I can borrow?" He said, "Yeah, sure." And I told him, I said, "Well, I'll come over tomorrow afternoon and get it." And I came home from work and the scaffolding was delivered. And then we did our job. And a couple of months later, I phoned Peter up and said, "Hey, Pete, I can bring that scaffolding back to you. Why don't you come over tomorrow afternoon and I'll help you. We'll load it up." And I got home from work, and again, Pete had come, he loaded up the scaffolding and taken it away, and never expected anything in return. He was just always generous and helpful and terrific. And a good man. Thank you.
I believe Kath was next on the list.
I guess I'm one of the people who've known Peter right back from childhood, and have a lot of really good memories of time at the Hillis's place. And in honesty, I was one of those people who always wanted to keep up with the Hillis kids on the ski hill. I was always trying to keep up to Jennifer or Peter. I never could do it. Or swimming, I was always trying to keep up to Peter or Jennifer swimming. But a friendly competition, and many great memories over at Dawn and Jean's house, and sewing lessons on the back deck. So wonderful people, and Peter was a wonderful person who I had a crush on for most of my childhood, but that was an awfully long time ago. So my deepest condolences.
Thank you, Kath. Eric Mortimer has requested a few words.
Hi, everybody. I'm Eric. I'm a 1988 baby in Rossland, and so I've known Peter as a child of the Kusawa crew, of all the smoke jumpers. And I've something I'll always remember about Peter is how fast he was always moving, and how he was always just in the middle of doing something. But he was always really a really great guy to run into. Music is a big part of my life, and it was a big part of Peter's life, and I didn't really know that at the time, but I was doing some construction in Rossland, and Peter was working on the same job site, and he said to me, "Oh, what's up, Eric? What are you doing these days?" And he's in the middle of doing something, and I said, "Oh, I'm thinking about going to music school, or I don't know really. I'm just figured it out." And the next day, Peter shows up with this 2-disc set of CDs that have become really important to me. They become the music that I've kind of gone on to feel the most attached to and study in my life. And I don't think that I would have got the opportunity to do that, or got to sort of go on to, it's the music that sent me over to New Orleans. And that all started with Peter. And I think it just shows how he was always looking out for people, like multiple stories that we've heard today of him. Oh yeah, let me help you out and give you this leg up into the next part of your, whatever you're trying to do. And I think that was a big part of Peter.
Thank you for that. Atlin Fraser would like to speak next.
Hi, my name's Atlin Fraser. I'm another, like Eric, I'm another one of the Kusawa kids that grew up in that era. What I remember the most about Peter was how everything was a teachable moment. I remember when he was building an airplane hangar down on Gord Foster's property, and I was zipping around on a dirt bike around there, and I kept getting it stuck in the mud. Got it stuck in there. First time came, pulled me out, laughed about it. Second time he came down, showed me a little bit more, got me out. Third time, I'm just like, it's fine. Peter's going to come bail me out. That's what Peter does. But he came wandering down, went over, pulled up a stump. And I was like, are you going to help me with this? He's like, I've shown you how to do this twice. Get yourself out of that. You know how. And it was just one of those things, like knowing he was there to help you, but giving you the tools to do it yourself. The other thing that I really remember the most about Peter, being one of the eldest Kusawa kids, is that all the stories that went on of all the crazy shenanigans that those guys were pulling off, they were incredible, they were unbelievable, but they would all have like this hushed whisper when it was a Peter Hillis story. It was like he was the back ringleader and the one that was doing the most interesting and crazy and out there things that not even those guys would be daring enough to try, but he was out there full front and center. So yeah, a big part of my life growing up, and yeah, gonna miss him. Thank you.
Thanks, Atlin. Don Thompson has a few words to say next.
Hello, everyone. Hey, Kamai. My words are more about the family than Peter. Kamang has been and is a big part of the Red Mountain family for many years, and just completely radiant. Her amazing smile, everything that she represented in, at Red was and is so, so amazing. So I posted a little text in the chat box earlier about, judging the quality of a person. And if you're able to judge the quality of a person by just the character of their family, it's amazing. Yeah, such a gem. And, Peter would come to my office often, and I, get a message from guest services, and someone here to see you. Who is it? Peter. Peter Hillis? Yeah. What's he up to? And to someone's point earlier, and Heather, thanks for coming clean as well. He'd come in and just be so direct about, here's what we're working on. Here's some, key objectives. Here's what's happening with the free ski comps. Here's some things that I see that might need improvement. Just special guy and on all those levels. And Simon, in addition to being an amazing athlete, you are a stellar human. And I think, in part, I think when you gave me that card last year, just a thank you card, and hand delivered it, it's kind of representative of, your family and Peter's guidance. And, that card that you delivered is going to be appreciated for a long time, mate. And so I just want to pass on my thanks to the family and all of our condolences, and to everybody that's on today. It's he's an amazing guy, and we're thinking of you.
Thanks, Dawn. That's all we have in the chat for now as far as stories. So I don't know if anybody wants to take the floor.
Could I say something?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Hi. I knew Peter most when he came in as a swirl dog. I was just one of the swirl puppies. And there was Sluggo and Dr. Schmegma, Fortune Cookie, Houdini, all these wonderful people. We partied hard. And Peter has pizzazz. Milty, you took the story that I would love to have shared with the climbing up the ski lift and handing out those red roses. It was awesome. He was so, and dressed in that tuxedo and everything. He just had pizzazz. He had also a really cheeky load on that lift as well, as we remember. So boys, you're going to find out more about your dad as you talk to his friends, and it will all be worth finding out for sure. But when I really got to know Peter again after the first 40 years ago, when we were young ski bums here, was first chair at Red when he pissed me off by getting there first. It was first chair of the season, and I think Simon was, oh God, knee-high to a grasshopper or something. He was barely bigger than his ski boots. And the way that Peter put it was like he was the chauffeur that had been sort of like encouraged by his kid to get out there early. But I was annoyed because you guys, you got there like an hour before. Like you really made me get up early. I think it was at that time I stopped serving breakfast for the B&B so that I could catch up with you and get on the first chair, but whatever. It was a glorious thing to see how he inspired his family with love and being there with you. Of course, it wasn't just saying how great skiing is and all that. He was just great, and he got you there, and he was fun to be around. And in the next 20, 40 years, he will echo down for you for sure. You know, his friends have said such nice things about him, and you will only find out more that's good. I was really lucky to know him. But I didn't know him well, but I liked what I knew. Okay.
I believe Samantha Fleming would like to go next.
I think we're on. Hi, Kamang. Hi, Simon. Hi, Toby, and everyone.
Hey, guys.
I just wanted to say how much Peter meant to us. I've met Peter when I first came to Roslyn, and you know, he was one of the funnest guys. I didn't know anybody hardly here, and he would always take me under his wings and go, hey, there's music to be listened to, and go to festivals. I met him in Bali. And he was always such a gentleman, always making sure that everything was okay for everybody. And when we were renovating our house, Peter was always my ally. When Garth was trying to make shortcuts, you know, yeah, we can do it this way. And I said, no, I want it this way. And Peter would say, yeah, it should be this way. So he was always
the enemy.
a great ally for me. And he was so helpful, and he meant a lot to us. Sammy called him Uncle Peter. He was and will always be in our hearts. Yeah. We miss him so much.
Yeah, I was a very shy kid and didn't really like to talk to many people, especially adults. But as soon as my Uncle Sandy left to Thailand, when I was about 3 or 4, I started calling Peter my uncle. Because I just always felt so comfortable around him. And yeah, still to this day, I was gone a lot the last few years, but every time I saw him, it was just like still so easy and so full and so beautiful. And yeah, I miss him a lot.
Our family, you guys.
He was one of my best buddies. But I have you 3. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. All our love, you guys.
Yes.
All our love.
Kevin Marr would like to say another story.
Yeah, you guys, I wish Garvin was here because he could tell the story better, but I'm sure a lot of you remember the story when Peter and Garvin made the CBC Evening News. I can see some chuckles coming to faces already, but
yeah.
Peter was driving Garvin. Well, Peter was driving to Vancouver and Garvin was catching a ride, and I can't remember exactly where they were, but they got pulled over at a highway side stop for let's just say there's been stories about Peter could make anything work. Well, he made cars work when they really shouldn't have worked, and there's on the evening CBC News, there's a picture of the RCMP checking out Peter's car. There's a picture of Garvin hitchhiking down the road, and then there's a picture of Peter operating the windshield wipers with a piece of string reaching across the outside of the windshield to pull the wipers across. So that was just one of the things our friend Peter did. He was an amazing man.
Kevin, there's a postscript to that story. You know, they impounded the car. This is secondhand, but they impounded the car, and according to legend, Peter broke into the pound that night and drove it to the rest of the way to the coast, and stole the car, and then dumped it in the river or the ocean or something like that. So yeah.
It doesn't surprise me, Milty, but he probably didn't put it in the river or the ocean. He probably took it respectably to a vehicle disposal yard.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Doug Collins, I believe, would like to say something.
Hello, folks. Been a long time since I've seen a lot of you folks, and my heart goes out to Peter's family, Kamong, Toby, Simon. A total shock to have something like this happen. But it's been an amazing outpouring of love and support that I've seen from the community of Roslyn and Ingersoll and his friends. And it's a real honor that just to see how much you guys have pulled together for everyone out there. And my heart goes out to all of you. A couple of things that I really treasure about with Peter, and I was one of the original squirrel dogs that came to Roslyn years ago. And that house you saw out on the island there with the plastic siding, I built that with Peter. Him and I spent 2 weeks putting that together. It was Twig fed us, and him and I, without any blueprints, of course, we managed to put that together. And the roof was made out of these printing sheets that he'd gotten at a newspaper place in Nanaimo. And they were about 2 feet by 4 feet. And all the roof was shingled with these old press plates that they were throwing in the garbage. But Pete was like a MacGyver. He was a very resourceful guy. And the house was built on tree stumps. We cut off tree stumps and hollowed them out. There's a lot of chainsaw construction that went on then. And we put this house together, and then I left, and him and Twig lived in it for the summer. And when we and myself and a couple other people moved to Roslyn, we ended up renting a house from Kenny. I'm pretty sure his last name was Turner. It was Kenny Turner, isn't it his last name? And we rented his house. And we were always good for theme parties. And one night we decided, we found this old lamp that was a Mountie. It was a Mountie with a lampshade on his head, right? And we decided that we were going to make this movie, and we kidnapped the Mountie, and we shot this video where we were doing certain things. We hung the Mountie and we swung it back and forth in front of flames through a glass window. And we wrote this elaborate kidnapping note, and sent it to Kenny that if the band didn't come and play a live party in his house, that we were going to kill the Mountie. And Peter put it all together with the video, and it was really quite well done. And we ended up having this massive party in the house, and the band played. And but Peter was a live wire, and he transformed to a wonderful father, an amazing man, for being a friend to everybody. And I saw him the last time was 4 years ago. He stopped in Ingersoll, and we'd always get together whenever he came home. But he just was a genuinely good person. And I'm so glad to see that you all have really surrounded the family with love and support. And he deserves it. And I'm really glad to see that you are special people out there, all of you. And again, God bless all of you. My heart goes out to you. Thanks, folks.
So Holly, Don
Yeah.
here. I know that we had kind of set a 90-minute hard stop, and it looks like we don't have anybody else in the queue there, unless I'm wrong. But I'd just like to also thank very much Terry Miller and Kelvin Saldern, who worked with myself and Komang and Simon and Toby, and all of the other people that sent input, photographs and memories that we wove into this. And it's been a team effort, and really, I think it's been really helpful for everybody. And certainly we're going to miss Peter, but we're going to carry on. All of us, the better off for having known Peter. Thankful for the life and times we shared with him. So Terry, you were kind of the point center on this, but you were the invite issuer. Is that, should we just more or less wind it down now?
That looks good for me, Don. It seems like the timing's really great, and everybody's had a chance to listen to these great stories and share a few of their own. So I think the timing's good. I just want to, I do want to just again say to Simon and Kamang and Toby, you guys are amazing. You guys are my heroes, and you've just been incredible here, and we got your back, and I think that's I think you're feeling all the love again, so we're with you guys. And thanks to everybody who came tonight. This has been magic. So Don, yeah, let's everybody. I think we'll say goodnight now, if that's good. And again, thanks so much. All our love, Peter. We miss you.
Thank you.
Nicely done, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Done.
Okay.